Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the equipment that we use in candle making. There's three ways known to melt wax. One is using an actual wax melter. Living in South Africa, we purchased one. This was made overseas. Unfortunately, we didn't get to read about the power plugs, and I used it. It melted my wax instantly. What's great about it, so if you have a chance to get yourself one, get yourself one. But if you need a converter for the plug, just make sure that you have the right fitting before you switch it around. I unfortunately didn't do that. I received it as a gift and I used it for the first time and I didn't have to worry about it. You just put the wax in the pot and it will just melt on its own and keep it warm for you, so you can make an obscene amount of candles in a day. But the second time I switched it on, it had blown by then, and the amount of money it would cost us to have it repaired, you can actually buy a new one. So that unfortunately didn't work for me, but what I've been using for the past 3 years is a double boiler method. With the wax melter, like I said, you don't have to worry about it. You can pop it in there and you can go and prep and wick your vessels and come back to when it's ready. It's not going to burn your wax. It's set at a certain temperature and it will stay at that temperature. So like I said, if you can get your hands on a wax melter, do it. The second best thing to that is a double boiler method. With here, you're using a pot at the bottom and you're going to line it with water. So mine is already messed with wax, but you're going to line it with water. Not too much of water because you just want it to cover the base of the pot that you're using, a stainless steel pot that you're using for your actual wax. The reason why you don't want to put the wax directly on the heat is that it could burn it. The direct heat could burn it and you don't want burn wax. With this method, the water helps control how much heat is getting to your wax and the temperature is actually melting your wax at, and you can control it. You do need to stand and help it melt down at certain times in that, but majority of the time you can leave it. Just to make sure that once it's all melted, you can switch the stove off and so it doesn't have to keep getting hot. So here with the double boiler method, you have to control the temperature, but it is the second best to a wax melter. The third option I'm not going to recommend. In fact, I'm actually going to disagree on it. If anybody tells you you can melt your candles in the microwave, please don't do that. It's absolutely obscene. I mean, you can, it works. But if you want to make a proper candle with proper wax that's not been burnt, please don't use the microwave. Please don't use the microwave. So wax melter or a double boiler method. And you just keep a bottle here so you can top up whenever you need to. Now, while we're on the topic of the double boiler and how to melt your wax, let's discuss all the tools that you'll need to make your candle. So here are the basic tools that you'll need to get started with making your first candle. First, a vessel. I would suggest a proper candle vessel because candle vessels are thicker, they have a thicker base, a thicker wall, and it's made for heat resistance. It's also coated so that it protects the vessel. And it's just perfect. When you lift it up and you move your candle around, you're not going to get burnt. If it's a thin glass vessel, then chances are it's going to be quite dangerous. Then we have a wick trimmer. This is more for advanced. If you're just starting out, you know what? A normal scissor will trim your wick. A sharp scissor will trim your wick perfectly. But this is nice and handy to have around, especially if you have a deep vessel that you want to get in there. It's nice to have around. These nail tools, they're brand new, but they seem to have come in very handy during my whole journey in making candles, in creating candles. So I found that these are very helpful for moving small decal pieces or controlling your wick just a little bit. So keep these on hand. You never know when you may need them, and I found that I needed them more than I expected to. Then you should have yourself wick stabilizers, especially if you're not using wooden wicks. These are the best to keep your wicks stabilized and straight. a thermometer so you know how hot your wax is and at what temperature to pour your fragrance into your wax, a pipette so that you can measure your fragrances and essential oils, a heat gun because it's going to give your candle a smooth surface finish and help get rid of any tunneling that your candle goes through, and heat treatment for pillar candles. I really like this. I have two. They are lifesavers for everything, especially if you happen to mess up your candle a bit. You can always melt it down just a little bit and fix it correctly. But be careful how you use it. It gets very, very hot. Make sure you have no pets or children around. Then your wicks for the vessels, and then your pouring stainless steel jug to control your wax. If you use plastic, the wax nicely lifts off the jar, but the problem with plastic, it doesn't keep your wax warm. It's going to cool your wax very fast. This, I find, holds the temperature of the wax, and it's much easier to clean. You just much easier to clean.